The 1938 New Zealand general election took place on the 14th and 15th of October 1938 to elect a total of 80 MPs to the 26th session of the New Zealand Parliament. This election is hugely significant as it would be the first election with the familiar political matchup we are used to today, with the Labour Party representing the left of politics and the National Party representing the right of politics. Following Labour's massive landslide victory in 1935, Mickey Savage and the Labour Party wasted no time in implementing their policies. This broke with the traditions of former Prime Ministers who were slow to enact their reforms. However, Savage argued that the Depression meant he could waste no time, and waste no time he did. Along with the Premiership, he appointed himself to the post of Minister of External Affairs and the Minister of Native Affairs. Soon after its election, the government gave a Christmas bonus of £270,000 to the unemployed and needy. Savage's government also restored wage cuts, expanded pensions, guaranteed farmers' prices, and revalued the currency. Other significant reforms included a reorganisation of the social welfare system and setting up the state housing scheme. Workers also benefited from the introduction of the 40-hour week and legislation making it easier for unions to negotiate on their behalf. Savage himself was highly popular with the working classes, and his portrait could be found on the walls of many houses around the country. At this same time, the Labour Party finalised an alliance with the Māori Ratana movement, and the two Ratana MPs led by Erua Teagarden merged with the Labour Party. The parliamentary opposition, meanwhile, attacked the Labour Party's more left-wing policies and accused it of undermining free enterprise and hard work. In May 1936, months after Labour's first general election win, the Reform Party and the United Party took their coalition to the next step, agreeing to merge with each other. The combined organisation was named the National Party, and yes, this is the same National Party of today, which makes it the second oldest political party in New Zealand. George Forbes, who had been the leader of the opposition following the United Reform Coalition's defeat, stepped away from leadership and became a backbencher. The leadership of the National Party was offered to Gordon Coates. Despite pressure for him by those close to him to become the new leader, Coates declined and declared the new party should have a new leader, and that him being too closely associated with the many unpopular policies of the previous government would hurt the party. However, Coates was determined that the new leader would be a Reform MP and backed Adam Hamilton. Therefore, the leadership of the National Party would be taken by the Member of Parliament for Wallace, Adam Hamilton, who, by the way, was not actually from Hamilton. Hamilton was born in Winton, Southland, and he and his brother ran a grain business before he was elected a Reform MP for the Wallace electorate in 1919. When the Reform Party formed a coalition with the United Party, Hamilton was made Minister of Internal Affairs. He also served at various times as the Minister of Telegraphs, Postmaster General, Minister of Labour and Minister of Employment. He was not popular in these roles. The Great Depression had resulted in high levels of unemployment, and Hamilton was often criticised for the government's failure to improve the situation. He was also criticised when the Post and Telegraph Department jammed a broadcast that was expected to be pro-Labour by a private radio station by Colin Scrimgeour just before the 1935 election. Hamilton denied knowledge of the jamming, but his reputation was nevertheless damaged. Despite his somewhat tarnished public image, Hamilton was selected to lead the new party and took over from the interim leader George Forbes. Hamilton was essentially a compromise candidate. Forbes and his main opponent, Gordon Coates, refused to serve under each other, and the Coates faction backed Hamilton as an acceptable alternative. Hamilton was duly elected, although only by one vote. Given the narrowness of his victory, many did not see Hamilton as the National Party's real leader. He was frequently accused of being a puppet of Coates, with suggestions even being made that Hamilton was merely holding the position until Coates built up the strength to take it himself. Hamilton was not particularly charismatic and did not inspire great loyalty from his colleagues. He was also closely associated within the public mind with the Depression era. Parliament would be dissolved in late August 1938 by the Governor-General, the 8th Viscount of Galway. Just before the election, Labour would pass the Social Security Act, which would be the cornerstone of their welfare state. Included in the bill was a means-tested old age pension of £78 a year, or 30 shillings per week to women over 60 and men over 65. A national superannuation scheme of £10 per annum, rising by £2, 10 shillings each year to reach the same level as the old age pension to all aged over 65. All existing allowances for the unemployed, widows, orphans, veterans and the disabled were either continued or increased. And a universal healthcare system providing free hospital treatment, free medicine, and a maternity benefit and subsidised doctors' visits. The campaigns of both Labour and National were starkly different. Labour ran a positive campaign that highlighted their policy achievements and argued that while they hadn't ended the Depression, they had made significant improvements to the lives of ordinary people. National, on the other hand, ran a largely negative campaign which was short on policies. Hamilton and the National Party were harshly critical of the Labour government and accused it of promoting communism and undermining the British Empire. The campaign was seen by many as alarmist and negative, and Hamilton's own performance was widely condemned. And the winner was, as was widely expected, Mickey Savage and the Labour Party were easily re-elected. They won 53 seats, which was the same number of MPs they had at the last election. However, they increased their vote share by 10% and won 56% of the vote. The National Party won 25 seats, a gain of 6, and 40% of the vote, a gain of 7%. Despite its increase in seats, it should be noted that most of these victories were seats won of independent MPs, with only 2 Labour MPs and deeply conservative rural seats falling to the Nats. Before this video ends, here's one last bit of trivia. Michael Joseph Savage is the only New Zealand Prime Minister to have served under 3 British monarchs. On the 20th of January 1936, King George V would pass away after ruling since 1910. His eldest son David would take over and become King Edward VIII. However, his reign would cause much consternation among politicians by his apparent disregard for established constitutional conventions. Only months into his reign, a constitutional crisis was caused by his proposal to marry Wallis Simpson, an American who had divorced her first husband and was seeking a divorce from her second. Prime Ministers of the United Kingdom and Dominions opposed the marriage, arguing a divorced woman with 2 living ex-husbands was politically and socially unacceptable as a queen consort. King Edward was also viewed as a Nazi sympathiser. When it became apparent he could not marry Simpson and remain on the throne, he abdicated. Edward's younger brother Albert would then be crowned King George VI. Thanks for watching and come back next time.